Some of these bullets decided the outcome of world wars. Some can rip an arm clean off. This is 10 calibers that changed the world completely. Let's get into it. 9mm Luger. Nothing starts a bar fight in a gun shop faster than this cartridge. Georg Luger built it in 1901 for a German pistol trial, and the round has been arguing with the .45 ACP ever since. The FBI switched away from it in the early 90s, chasing bigger bullets after a rough shootout convinced everyone that size solves everything. They spent 20 years testing that theory. Then they switched back. Turns out shot placement and magazine capacity mattered more than the extra few millimeters of diameter. The internet still hasn't gotten the memo. It's the most manufactured pistol cartridge on the planet right now. Nearly every police department in the world carries it. Not because it's the most powerful, because it's controllable, cheap to practice with, and boring in the best possible way. .22 long rifle. Ask 10 shooters what they disagree about, and you'll get 10 answers. Ask them what caliber is the most fun, and you'll get one answer. It dates back to the 1880s, born from a merger of two older rimfire rounds. It's absurdly cheap, absurdly common, and during any supply panic, it's the first thing to vanish off shelves, which tells you everything about how many different jobs this little round does. Same cartridge trains a first-time shooter, wins Olympic medals, drops small game, and quietly does specialized work where noise is a problem. 4 completely different missions, one tiny piece of brass. 5.56 by 45mm NATO. This one started as a rebellion against a rifle nobody in charge wanted. Eugene Stoner built a full-power battle rifle first. The military brass didn't love it, so the concept got scaled down into something lighter, faster, and easier to control on full auto. Vietnam is where the smaller round proved its point. Jungle fighting rarely happened past 50 meters, and troops could carry twice the ammunition for the same pack weight. The trade-off became official policy by the mid-1960s. The wound effect surprised a lot of people. At the right velocity, the bullet can tumble and fragment inside soft tissue instead of drilling a clean channel through. Not guaranteed, barrel length, distance, and bullet design all change the outcome. And yes, the commercial .223 Remington and the military 5.56 look like twins but aren't loaded to the same pressure. Chamber the wrong one in the wrong rifle and you're rolling dice. 7.62 by 39mm. For half a century, pop culture handed this cartridge to the villain. If the rifle had a curved magazine, you already knew whose side that character was on. The Soviets designed it during the Second World War as a middle ground cartridge, and the rifle built around it 3 years later became the most produced firearm in history. Tens of millions of them scattered across every continent, kept running in conditions that would kill most other mechanisms. Ballistically, it hits harder and slower than 5.56, trading long-range flatness for a bigger wound channel up close. Past a couple hundred meters, the gap between the two closes fast, and in the kind of close-quarters fighting that actually happens in cities, the difference barely registers. .308 Winchester or 7.62 by 51mm. NATO committees don't usually design good ammunition, but this is the exception that keeps proving the rule wrong. NATO needed one standard rifle cartridge in the early 1950s. American planners wanted something close to their beloved .3006. European allies wanted less recoil and lighter loads. What got adopted in 1954 satisfied nobody completely and ended up everywhere anyway. The reason it's still around, it does almost every job reasonably well. Precision bolt guns, general-purpose machine guns, battle rifles. One cartridge, 3 completely different roles. Trained shooters push it out past 800 meters with confidence, mostly because the ammunition is standardized across an entire military alliance, and predictability under pressure beats a flashier spec sheet every time. Fun trap for the unwary. Commercial .308 and military 7.62. NATO brass isn't dimensionally identical. Most rifles handle either just fine. A few don't, and people find that out the expensive way. .45 ACP. The origin story is blunt. American troops fighting in the Philippines around 1900 found that their standard issue revolver round wasn't reliably stopping determined attackers. The Army's takeaway was simple: go bigger. John Browning answered with the .45 ACP in 1905, paired a few years later with the pistol that would carry it through both world wars and decades after. The detail suppressor enthusiasts love. A standard 230-grain .45 load leaves the barrel slower than the speed of sound without any special engineering. No subsonic-specific ammunition required. Every time the topic of suppressed handguns comes up, this cartridge gets mentioned first, purely because it was quiet by accident before anyone cared about quiet on purpose. .357 Magnum. Prohibition-era criminals figured out that steel car doors stopped police revolver rounds cold. Law enforcement needed something with more push, and a handful of shooting enthusiasts had already been quietly overloading .38 special ammunition to dangerous levels, trying to solve the same problem for themselves. Smith & Wesson formalized that experimentation into a new cartridge in 1935, built a fraction of an inch longer specifically so it couldn't be chambered in weaker .38 special revolvers by accident. The reverse works fine though. A .357 revolver cheerfully fires .38 special for cheap practice, then chambers full-power Magnum loads when it matters. That one-dimensional trick made it the standard for training versus carry ammo for generations of revolver owners. 12 gauge. The gauge numbering system is a genuine historical accident. It counts how many lead balls of that bore diameter add up to 1 pound. 12 balls, 12 gauge, higher number, smaller hole. Nobody's ever fixed the logic, and nobody ever will. What makes it the default for shotguns isn't raw power, it's flexibility. The same gun cycles featherlight birdshot, buckshot loads meant for close-range defense, rifled slugs capable of taking deer past 100 yards, and less lethal rounds for crowd control. Same chamber, same length, entirely different jobs depending on what gets loaded. That range of behavior is why it dominates the home defense conversation more than any ballistic number could. 7.62 by 54mm R, designed in 1891 for Russia's Bolt Action Service rifle, this cartridge has now outlasted every empire, government, and military doctrine that originally adopted it. Over 130 years of continuous frontline use, which is a record nothing else in modern service life comes close to touching. The R doesn't stand for Russia. It stands for rimmed, describing the case design. And correcting people about that fact has become something of a rite of passage on every firearms forum in existence. Performance-wise, it sits close to modern .308 class rounds in range and energy. It survived the 20th century on sheer stockpile size, and because the rifles and machine guns built around it are still too reliable to retire out of stubbornness alone. .50 BMG. Ask a .50 caliber enthusiast about the kill radius of a passing round, and you'll hear total conviction delivered with a straight face. It's not true, it's just a story that's been repeated so often it feels true. John Browning developed the round near the end of the First World War, specifically to bring down aircraft and punch through early armor plating, and subtlety was never part of the design brief. Another myth that refuses to die, that international law bans using it against enemy personnel. No such rule has ever existed, though you'll meet people who will argue the point with complete certainty anyway. What's actually true is impressive enough without embellishment. The machine gun built around this cartridge in the early 1920s is still standard issue in militaries worldwide today, making it one of the oldest weapon systems still in active service anywhere. Precision rifles chambered for it routinely hit targets past 1,500 meters, not a round anyone associates with finesse, but plenty accurate when it needs to be.